Dr. Kexton pushed through the thick jungle vines that covered the ancient metal door. His breathing mask fogged up in the humid air of Kepler 442b. This dead world had been empty for over 500,000 years, but something about it felt different today. "Are you sure the readings are correct?" asked Yilara, the young historian who had joined his team just 2 months ago. She held her scanner close to the door, watching the numbers dance across the screen. "The quantum signatures don't lie," replied Commander Thexel, adjusting his military-grade detector. "There's definitely human technology down there. Old human technology." Dr. Kexton had spent his entire career studying the humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew their story. 500,000 years ago, they had made the ultimate sacrifice. When the evil Vorthak Empire threatened to destroy all peaceful species, the humans had fought back with everything they had. They lost, of course. How could one small species defeat the mighty Vorthak war machine? But their brave last stand had inspired other species to unite and eventually defeat the Vorthaks. It was a beautiful story. A sad story. The humans had died so that others could live free. But now, standing before this hidden facility, Dr. Kexton felt confused. Why would humans build a secret base on this remote world? The history books said they were too busy fighting for their lives to build anything new. The metal door opened with a soft hiss. Air rushed out, carrying the smell of ozone and something else, something that reminded Dr. Kexton of the archives back home, where old books were kept safe from time. "The air is breathable," announced Yilara, checking her readings. "Someone built this place to last." They walked down a long corridor lit by strips of blue light. The walls were covered with symbols that Dr. Kexton recognized as human writing, but these symbols were more complex than anything he had seen before. Usually human writing was simple and direct. These symbols looked like mathematical equations mixed with star charts. "Look at this," whispered Commander Thexel. He stood before a large screen that had turned on when they entered the room. Numbers and diagrams filled the display, moving and changing in patterns that hurt to watch for too long. Dr. Kexton approached the screen carefully. His translator worked slowly on the human text, but gradually words appeared. Galactic movement. Prediction model, cycle 7394, probability success rate 97.3%. "What does that mean?" asked Yilara. Before Dr. Kexton could answer, more screens came alive around the room. Each one showed different star charts, but these weren't maps of the galaxy as it had been 500,000 years ago. These were maps of the galaxy, as it was today. The computer showed the exact positions of stars, planets, and even space stations that had been built long after the humans died. "This is impossible," breathed Commander Thexel. "No one can predict the movement of entire star systems across 500,000 years. The mathematics alone would require computing power that didn't exist back then." Dr. Kexa then moved to another screen. This one showed something even more disturbing. It displayed the political map of the modern galaxy, with all the current alliances and trade routes marked in detail. But the date on the file said it was created 50,000 years before first contact between humans and any alien species. How did they know? Yilara's voice was barely a whisper. How could they know about species they never met? Dr. Kexton felt a chill run down his spine. He had studied human history for over a century. Humans were supposed to be brave, but primitive. They used simple weapons and basic technology. They won through courage and determination, not through advanced science. But this room told a different story. Commander Thexel had found a data core and was trying to access its contents. "The encryption is incredible," he muttered, "but I think I can break through some of the outer layers." As he worked, more information appeared on the screens. Dr. Kexathon saw detailed profiles of alien species, including psychological analyses and predicted behavioral patterns. He saw economic models that accurately predicted resource distribution across the galaxy. He saw military strategies that took into account weapons that wouldn't be invented for hundreds of thousands of years. "Commander," said Yilara slowly, "look at this screen. It shows the Great Trade War between the Zeltharians and the Centauri Republic. But this file is dated long before either species developed space travel. Commander Thexel stopped working on the data core and looked at the screen Ylara had found. His face turned pale. The Great Trade War shaped the modern galactic economy. If the humans predicted it, that means they might have planned it, finished Dr. Kexton. The three investigators stood in silence, surrounded by screens, full of impossible predictions. Everything they had learned about human history was starting to feel wrong. Humans weren't supposed to be this advanced. They weren't supposed to know about the future. They were supposed to be noble warriors who died fighting an impossible battle. But the evidence was all around them. Dr. Kexton activated his recording device. Personal log, Day 12 of the Kepler 442b expedition. We have discovered a human facility that appears to contain predictive models of galactic development spanning 500,000 years. The accuracy of these predictions suggests a level of technological sophistication far beyond what historical records indicate humans possessed. He paused, then continued. I am beginning to suspect that everything we know about the human sacrifice may be incomplete. Ylara had found another data core. Dr. Kexton, this one contains files about something called the Long Plan. The index shows thousands of entries, but I can't access the main files yet. Keep working on it, said Dr. Kexton. Commander, what about that data core you were examining? I've managed to access some basic directory information, replied Thexel. There are references to facilities on dozens of other worlds. It looks like this wasn't the only hidden installation. Dr. Kexton felt his understanding of history crumbling around him. If there were more facilities like this one, then the humans had been planning something much bigger than anyone realized. The question was, what? As they prepared to leave the facility, Dr. Kexton took one last look at the screens. The numbers continued to dance across the displays, showing the movement of stars and civilizations across impossible spans of time. For 500,000 years, the galaxy had remembered the humans as heroes who died for others. But now Dr. Kexton wondered if they had really died at all. The investigation was just beginning. 3 weeks later, Dr. Kexton's ship arrived at New Montana, a world that humans had settled long before their war with the Vorthax. The planet was covered in forests now, but scanners showed the remains of human settlements buried under centuries of growth. The records say this was just a farming colony, said Ylara, reading from her datapad. Population of about 50,000. They grew food and raised cattle. Commander Thexel landed their shuttle near what used to be the main settlement. If it was just a farm, why are my sensors picking up the same quantum signatures we found? On Kepler 442b? They walked through the ruins of the old town. Most of the buildings had fallen down long ago, but the foundations remained. Dr. Kexton noticed that the town was built in a strange pattern. The streets formed geometric shapes that seemed to have no practical purpose for a farming community. Look at this, called Ylara from beside an old well. There's a metal plate down here with human writing. They used a rope to lower Commander Thexel into the well. He found a hidden door at the bottom, sealed with the same type of lock they had encountered on Kepler 442b. When the door opened, they discovered another facility, this one smaller but just as advanced as the first. The main room contained biological equipment that was far too sophisticated for simple farming. Dr. Kexton examined the containers and found samples of microorganisms that had been carefully preserved. When he ran them through his analyzer, he got a shocking result. These organisms are genetically modified, he announced, but they're modified to produce compounds that are specifically effective against Vorthak biology. That's impossible, said Commander Thexel. Humans didn't know about Vorthak biology until first contact. How could they create weapons against an enemy they had never met? Ylara found a computer terminal that was still functioning. The files it contained told an incredible story. A human named Jake Harrison, listed in the official records as a simple farmer, had actually been conducting secret biological warfare research. His crop experiments were actually designed to develop vaccines and treatments for diseases that the Vorthax would later use as weapons. According to this, said Ylara, Jake Harrison predicted 17 different biological weapons that the Vorthax would deploy during the war. He developed countermeasures for all of them. Dr. Kex then felt his world shifting again. But the historical records say that humans struggled against Vorthak bioweapons. They supposedly lost millions of lives to diseases they couldn't cure. Maybe they wanted it to look that way, suggested Commander Thexel quietly. From New Montana, they traveled to Aquatica, an ocean world where humans had established research stations. The official history said they were studying marine life, trying to learn how to farm the sea. But when the team dove to the ruins of the underwater facilities, they found something very different. Dr. Lisa Carter, the human scientist who had run the Aquatica project, hadn't been studying dolphins at all. Her real work involved quantum communication systems that used the ocean itself as a transmission medium. The equipment they found could send messages across the galaxy using water currents and magnetic fields in ways that no known technology could detect. She was running a spy network, realized Ylara as she studied the communication logs. These messages were going to human colonies on dozens of different worlds. The messages themselves were mostly encoded, but Commander Thexel managed to decrypt a few fragments. What he found made his blood run cold. The humans were sharing detailed intelligence about alien species that they supposedly had never encountered. They knew about Vorthak military tactics, crystalline Confederacy trade routes, and even the social customs of species that lived on the other side of the galaxy. "How long had they been watching us?" whispered Commander Thexel. Dr. Kexthon was beginning to understand the scope of what they were uncovering. "We need to visit more sites. If these two colonies were secretly gathering intelligence, then maybe they all were." Over the next month, they visited 12 different human colonies. At each one, they found the same pattern. Humans who were supposed to be miners, farmers, artists, or merchants had actually been running sophisticated intelligence operations. They had been gathering information, developing weapons, and building communication networks on a scale that spanned the entire galaxy. New Denver. Mining engineer Bill Rodriguez had been using his asteroid mining operation to map gravitational anomalies throughout the star system. But his real purpose became clear when they analyzed his data. He had been deliberately choosing which asteroids to mine based on how their removal would affect trade routes between different alien species. He was forcing the Vorthax to expand their territory in specific directions, Dr. Kexthan realized as he studied the gravitational models. By removing key asteroids, he made certain space lanes unsafe, which pushed Vorthak shipping into areas controlled by the Krextar. Ylara looked up from her own analysis. The Great Krextar-Vorthak War started because of shipping disputes in exactly those areas. The war lasted for 300 years and weakened both empires so much that smaller species could break free from their control. "Are you saying that humans caused that war?" asked Commander Thexel. "I'm saying they engineered it," replied Dr. Kexton. "They moved asteroids around to create the conditions that would make the war inevitable. On New Berlin, they found evidence that human diplomat Amy Foster had secretly been manipulating first contact protocols between different species. Her cultural exchange programs were actually carefully designed to create misunderstandings and conflicts between specific alien governments. She had started 3 major wars, broken up 2 powerful alliances, and caused the fall of at least one galactic empire. The pattern was clear now. For at least 50,000 years before first contact, humans had been secretly observing, infiltrating, and manipulating galactic civilization. They hadn't been innocent victims of Vorthak aggression. They had been puppet masters, pulling strings from the shadows to shape the development of hundreds of different species. But why? What had they been trying to accomplish? Dr. Kexthon stood in the ruins of Amy Foster's office on New Berlin and tried to make sense of it all. Around him, holographic displays showed the complicated web of alliances and conflicts that had shaped galactic history for the past 500,000 years. Almost every major event could be traced back to some action taken by a human agent. They weren't just planning to fight the Vorthax, he said slowly. They were planning to reshape the entire galaxy. Ylara had found another encrypted file. "Dr. Kexton, look at this. It's a message from something called Central Planning. It's addressed to all human colony leaders." The message was short but terrifying. Phase 1 complete. All target species have achieved desired development levels. Initiate Phase 2 protocols. Remember, the sacrifice must appear genuine. The galaxy must believe we are gone. Commander Thexel read the message over Yllara's shoulder. Phase 2 protocols. What do you think that means? Dr. Kexthan stared at the message, feeling pieces of a massive puzzle starting to fall into place. I think it means the famous last stand. Of Earth wasn't really their last stand at all. The battlefield of Centauri Prime looked peaceful now. 500,000 years had passed since the famous battle where human Admiral Kate Morrison had supposedly saved the Allied fleet through a desperate gamble. Grass grew over the metal. Debris and small animals nested in the hulks of destroyed warships. Dr. Kexthan knelt beside a piece of twisted metal that had once been part of a human destroyer. His quantum archaeology scanner could read the molecular history of objects, showing what had happened to them across time. What he discovered made him drop the scanner in shock. This ship wasn't destroyed by Vorthak weapons, he announced to his team. The damage patterns show it was deliberately sabotaged from the inside. Commander Thexel picked up another piece of debris. Same here. These blast patterns suggest the humans destroyed their own ships. Yillara was scanning the area where Admiral Morrison's flagship had supposedly made its final stand. I'm not finding any evidence that a battle actually took place here. The quantum residue suggests that most of the human ships left the area intact. Dr. Kexthan felt a familiar chill. Every piece of evidence was pointing to the same impossible conclusion. The Battle of Centauri Prime, which every schoolchild in the galaxy learned about, had been a fake. They spent 3 days combing the battlefield with advanced scanners. What they found painted a very different picture of the famous battle. The Ichio. Human ships had indeed been destroyed, but they had destroyed themselves. The Vorthak ship showed signs of being disabled by some kind of unknown weapon, not damaged in battle. Most shocking of all, they found escape pod signatures indicating that nearly all the human crews had evacuated before their ships were destroyed. But if the humans didn't die here, where did they go? Asked Yillara. Commander Thexel had found something interesting in the debris of a Vorthak command ship. Look at this tactical computer. It contains battle plans that show the Vorthaks knew exactly what the humans were going to do. But these plans were created 200 years before the humans developed the tactics they describe. Dr. Kexthan studied the Vorthak tactical data. How could they know about human tactics that didn't exist yet? Unless someone told them, said Yillara quietly. The implications were staggering. If the humans had given the Vorthaks information about their own tactics, then the entire Battle of Centauri Prime had been carefully choreographed by both sides. But why would humans help their enemies? Their next stop was New Denver, another human colony that had been destroyed by the Vorthaks. According to the historical records, the colony had been wiped out in a surprise attack, with all 50,000 inhabitants killed. But when they arrived, Dr. Kexthan immediately noticed something strange. There are no mass graves, he observed. If 50,000 people died here, where are the bodies? They found the answer in the colony's central computer, which had been hidden underground and protected by the same type of shielding they had encountered at other sites. The computer contained the real records of what had happened at New Denver. Bill Rodriguez, the mining engineer, had received orders to evacuate the entire colony 3 weeks before the Vorthak attack. The evacuation had been carried out in secret, using ships that didn't appear in any official records. When the Vorthaks arrived, they found empty buildings and fake evidence of a massacre. They made it look like everyone was killed, said Yillara, scrolling through the evacuation records. But they actually moved all 50,000 people to hidden bases on uninhabited worlds. Dr. Kexthan was beginning to see the full scope of the human deception. How many colonies were destroyed this way? Commander Thexel had accessed another part of the database. According to this, at least 40 human worlds staged fake destructions. The total number of people who were supposedly killed but actually evacuated is over 2 billion. 2 billion humans all pretending to be dead while they continued their secret work from hidden bases. Dr. Kexthan sat down heavily as the magnitude of the deception sank in. The entire galaxy had been mourning human sacrifice for 500,000 years, but the humans had never been victims at all. They found more evidence of manipulation at every site they visited. On New Cairo, human archaeologist Dr. Susan Miller had been secretly planting fake artifacts that would be discovered by alien civilizations thousands of years later. These artifacts contained false information about human capabilities, making humans appear more primitive than they actually were. On New Tokyo, human engineer Robert Chen had been sabotaging his own colony's defenses, making sure that when the Vorthax attacked, the humans would appear helpless. But the real defensive systems were hidden underground, and the colonists had been safely evacuated long before the attack began. The pattern was everywhere. Humans had spent thousands of years building an image of themselves as brave but doomed underdogs. They had made sure that when the galaxy looked at human history, they would see noble sacrifice instead of sophisticated manipulation. But the most disturbing discovery came when they investigated the Vorthak Empire itself. Using quantum archaeology on Vorthak artifacts, Dr. Kexton found evidence that humans had been influencing Vorthak society for thousands of years before first contact. Human agents had infiltrated Vorthak colonies, posing as members of other species. They had slowly introduced ideas and technologies that made the Vorthak Empire more aggressive and expansionist. They had encouraged the Vorthaks to develop the very weapons and tactics that would later be used against human colonies. They created their own enemy, whispered Commander Thexel as he studied the infiltration records. They turned the Vorthaks into the perfect villain for their story. Ylara had found something even more shocking. Look at this communication log. It shows that human spy Amy Foster was in direct contact with the Vorthak Emperor. She was giving him strategic advice about how to attack human colonies most effectively. Dr. Kexthan read the messages with growing horror. Amy Foster had told the Vorthak Emperor exactly when and where to attack human settlements for maximum psychological impact on other species. She had helped plan the very atrocities that had inspired the galaxy to unite against the Vorthak Empire. The great alliance that defeated the Vorthaks, he said slowly. It was formed because everyone was horrified by what happened to human colonies. But if the humans planned those attacks, then they created the alliance on purpose. Finished. Ylara. They sacrificed their own people to manipulate other species into working together. But as Dr. Kexthan continued to study the records, he realized that even this wasn't the whole truth. The humans who had supposedly died in Vorthak attacks had actually been evacuated to safety. The atrocities had been staged using sophisticated holographic technology and artificial bodies. No humans had actually been harmed, but the galaxy had been convinced that millions had died. Commander Thexel found the final piece of the puzzle in a heavily encrypted file. The Vorthak Empire wasn't destroyed by the Great Alliance, he announced. According to this, the Vorthaks agreed to fake their own defeat in exchange for secret territory in a distant galaxy. Dr. Kexton stared at his colleague in disbelief. Are you saying the entire war was fake? I'm saying it was business, replied Commander Thexel. The humans needed a villain to unite the galaxy against. The Vorthaks needed a reason to relocate their empire to richer hunting grounds. So they made a deal. The greatest war in galactic history, the conflict that had shaped civilization for 500,000 years, had been nothing more than an elaborate performance. The humans and Vorthaks had worked together to create a threat that would force other species to evolve, unite, and advance their technology. And it had worked perfectly. The ruins of Earth looked exactly as Dr. Kexthan had expected. The planet was a dead ball of rock and twisted metal, scarred by ancient weapons. Every child in the galaxy knew the story. This was where humanity had made its final stand, where they had died fighting to give other species a chance to escape Vorthak tyranny. But after weeks of investigation, Dr. Kexthan no longer believed the official story. The quantum trail markers they had been following led here, to a point beneath what had once been Earth's capital city. His scanners showed a massive structure hidden deep underground, protected by energy fields that shouldn't have been possible with ancient human technology. The shielding around this facility is more advanced than anything in current use, reported Commander Thexel. as he tried to find a way inside. It's been maintaining perfect environmental conditions for over 500,000 years. Ylara was studying her readings with amazement. The power source appears to be some kind of temporal energy tap. It's drawing power from time itself. They found the entrance after 2 days of searching. It was hidden beneath the ruins of what appeared to be a simple office building, but the entrance shaft went down for over a kilometer through solid bedrock. At the bottom, they discovered a facility that dwarfed everything they had seen before. The main chamber was enormous, filled with machines that hummed with barely contained energy. Screens covered every wall, showing star charts, mathematical equations, and streams of data that moved too fast for organic minds to follow. At the center of it all was a chair surrounded by monitoring equipment, as if someone had been sitting there recently. "This place is still active," whispered Dr. Kexthan. "After all this time, it's still running." As they approached the central chair, the screens around them began displaying new information. Images of their own investigation appeared, showing them at each facility they had visited. The computers had been watching them, recording their discoveries and analyzing their reactions. A voice spoke from hidden speakers using perfect galactic standard language. "Welcome, Dr. Kexthan of the Zeltharian Science Council. We have been waiting for you." The three investigators froze. The voice was clearly human, but that was impossible. All the humans had died centuries ago. "Who are you?" asked Dr. Kexthan, his voice barely steady. "I am Dr. Connor Blake, Chief Temporal Researcher for the Human Strategic Planning Division. Please do not be alarmed. You are perfectly safe." A holographic figure appeared near the central chair. It looked human, but there was something strange about its appearance, as if it wasn't quite solid. Dr. Connor Blake appeared to be middle-aged, with gray hair and tired eyes that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "You're dead," said Ylara, bluntly. "Humans have been extinct for 500,000 years. Dr. Blake smiled sadly. "Extinct is such a final word. We prefer to think of ourselves as strategically relocated." Commander Thexel had his weapon ready, though he wasn't sure what good it would do against a hologram. "What is this place?" "This is the Central Planning Facility," explained Dr. Blake. "From here, we observed potential futures and calculated the optimal path for galactic development. Everything you have discovered over the past months was planned from this room." Dr. Kexathan looked at the screens surrounding them. They showed detailed timelines stretching far into the future, with decision trees and probability calculations that hurt his brain to contemplate. "You're saying you can see the future?" "We developed temporal viewing technology approximately 75,000 years before first contact with other species," confirmed Dr. Blake. "It allowed us to observe multiple possible timelines and choose which future we wanted to create." The hologram gestured to one of the larger screens, which began displaying images of different potential futures. Dr. Kexathan saw worlds where the Vorthak Empire had conquered everything, timelines where various species had destroyed each other, in endless wars, and futures where galactic civilization had collapsed into barbarism. In 93% of observed timelines, intelligent life in this galaxy was extinct within 50,000 years of first contact between species, continued Dr. Blake. The few timelines where civilization survived required very specific historical events to occur in very specific sequences. Ylara stared at the temporal projections. "So you manipulated history to create one of the successful timelines." "We guided history," corrected Dr. Blake. "Every action we took was designed to increase the probability of long-term survival for all sentient species. Sometimes this required us to make difficult choices." Commander Thexel lowered his weapon, slightly. "Like faking your own extinction." "The last stand of Earth was our greatest performance," admitted Dr. Blake with something that might have been pride. "We needed to unite the galaxy against a common threat, but we also needed to remove ourselves from direct influence. As long as humans were seen as a major power, other species would compete with us instead of cooperating with each other." Dr. Kexthan was beginning to understand the scope of what the humans had accomplished. "So you became martyrs instead of rulers. The galaxy united to honor your sacrifice." "Exactly." Captain Ryan Mitchell and his crew were actors playing their parts in the most important drama in galactic history. They evacuated through temporal gates moments before their ships were destroyed. The deaths were all staged using holographic technology and artificial biological remains. The screen showed footage of the famous last stand of Earth, but now Dr. Kexthan could see the truth behind the images. The human ships weren't fighting desperately against overwhelming odds. They were performing a carefully choreographed dance, designed to look like heroic sacrifice while actually being a controlled evacuation. "Where did they go?" asked Yilara. "Where did all the humans go?" Dr. Blake's expression became even sadder. Most evacuated to prepared bases in other galaxies, where they established new colonies far from any interference with our plan here. A few volunteered to remain behind as hidden observers, using genetic camouflage technology to blend in with other species. "Hidden observers," repeated Commander Thexel. "They're still here?" "Some of their descendants are, yes. They have been guiding galactic development for 500,000 years, ensuring that the plan stays on track. They hold positions of influence in governments, trade organizations, and research institutions throughout the galaxy." Dr. Kexthan felt the ground shifting beneath his feet again. "How many?" "Approximately 50,000 individuals with human genetic markers currently live among other species," replied Dr. Blake. "Most don't even know their true heritage. They believe themselves to be normal members of their adopted species, but they carry genetic modifications that subtly influence their behavior toward cooperation and long-term thinking." The implications were staggering. For 500,000 years, human descendants had been secretly shaping galactic civilization, preventing wars, encouraging trade, and fostering the kind of thinking that led to peaceful cooperation between species. "But why?" asked Dr. Kexthan. "What was the point of all this manipulation? What were you trying to achieve?" Dr. Blake's holographic form flickered slightly as if the energy maintaining it was running low. "To answer that question, I need to show you what we discovered when we first developed temporal viewing technology." The screens around them changed, showing images that came from far in the future. Dr. Kexthan saw darkness between the stars and something vast and hungry moving through that darkness. He saw entire star systems going dark, not destroyed but somehow consumed, leaving empty space behind. "We call them the Devourers," explained Dr. Blake. "They exist in the space between galaxies, feeding on organized matter and energy. They move through the universe in predictable cycles, consuming entire galactic clusters before moving on to find new sources of food." Commander Thexel studied the images with his military training. "When do they arrive?" "Our calculations show they will reach this galaxy in approximately 50,000 years, replied Dr. Blake. "Give or take a few centuries." Yilara looked horrified. "And you've been preparing for them all this time?" "Everything we have done, every manipulation, every sacrifice, has been designed to ensure that this galaxy will be ready when the Devourers arrive. The species that exist today are stronger, more unified, and more technologically advanced than they would have been without our intervention." Dr. Kexthan understood now. The humans hadn't been conquering or controlling other species. They had been preparing them for a war that was still 50,000 years in the future. The Great Alliance that defeated the Vorthax became the foundation for modern galactic government, he realized. The trade networks that developed afterward created economic interdependence between species. The scientific cooperation that resulted from shared research has accelerated technological development. "And it was all planned," confirmed Dr. Blake. "Every war we prevented, every alliance we fostered, every scientific breakthrough we encouraged, was calculated to give galactic civilization the best possible chance of surviving the arrival of the Devourers." The hologram began to fade as the facility's power systems finally started to fail after 500,000 years of continuous operation. Dr. Kexthan couldn't sleep after leaving Earth. The revelation that humans had been preparing the galaxy for an invasion that was still 50,000 years away kept running through his mind. But there was another question that bothered him, even more. If some humans had stayed behind to guide galactic development, where were they now? Commander Thexel had been thinking the same thing. "We need to find the hidden observers," he said, as their ship traveled toward the Altarian homeworld. If Dr. Blake was telling the truth, then there are 50,000 human descendants living among us right now. Yalara was running genetic analysis programs on her computer. I've been studying the DNA traces we collected from all the human facilities. If I can create a template for human genetic markers, we might be able to identify individuals who have human ancestry. The Altarian homeworld was a beautiful planet of crystal cities and floating gardens. Dr. Kexthan had visited here many times for conferences and research collaborations. It was one of the most peaceful and advanced worlds in the galaxy, known for its philosophers and artists. They decided to start their search at the University of Higher Thought, where Dr. Kexthan had friends among the faculty. Their first stop was the office of Zixandros, a renowned Altarian philosopher whose works on interspecies cooperation were studied throughout the galaxy. Zixandros greeted them warmly, his crystalline skin reflecting the afternoon light. "Dr. Kexthan, what brings you to our world? Are you here for another lecture series?" "Actually, we're conducting a research project about genetic diversity," explained Dr. Kexthan carefully. "We're studying how different species have developed over the past few 100,000 years." "Fascinating," replied Zixandros. "I've always been interested in the biological basis for cooperative behavior. Some of my recent papers have explored how certain genetic traits seem to promote long-term thinking and peaceful conflict resolution." Yalara activated her scanner discreetly while the philosopher spoke. The readings she got made her eyes widen with shock. Zixandros showed clear signs of human genetic modification, specifically in the areas of the brain that controlled social cooperation and strategic planning. After they left Zixandros' office, Yalara showed them her readings. "He has human DNA markers throughout his nervous system," she whispered. "But they're so well integrated that he probably doesn't even know they're there." Commander Thexel looked grim. "How many others are there?" They spent the next week discreetly, scanning prominent Altarians. What they found was disturbing. Nearly 30% of the planet's intellectual and political leaders showed signs of human genetic modification. These weren't full humans disguised as Altarians. They were genuine Altarians who had been subtly enhanced with human traits. "It's like someone has been upgrading the species," observed Dr. Kexthan as he studied the genetic data, "adding human characteristics that promote cooperation, long-term planning, and peaceful problem-solving." Their next stop was Nexus Prime, the great trading hub where representatives of hundreds of species came to conduct business. If humans were influencing galactic development, this would be a logical place to find them. The merchant guild that controlled most of Nexus Prime's trade was led by a Centaurian named Keltara. She was known throughout the galaxy as a fair negotiator, who somehow always managed to find solutions that benefited everyone involved. Her trade agreements had prevented dozens of economic wars over the centuries. When Dr. Kexthan met with Keltara to discuss research opportunities, Yalara's scanner went wild. Keltara wasn't just genetically modified, she was almost entirely human, with only enough Centaurian DNA to make her appear to be a normal member of that species. "She's at least 70% human," whispered Yalara after they left the meeting. "But she's been so well disguised that even she probably believes she's a pure Centaurian." Commander Thexel was running calculations on his computer. "If there are this many hidden humans on just 2 worlds, then the actual number throughout the galaxy must be enormous. Dr. Blake said 50,000, but I think that was just the pure humans. The number of people with human genetic modifications could be in the millions." Dr. Kexthan felt a chill as he realized the implications. They've been breeding their traits into other species for 500,000 years. How many of our leaders, our thinkers, our peacemakers are carrying human DNA without knowing it? The answer to that question came from an unexpected source. When they returned to Dr. Kexthan's home base on Zeltharia Prime, his longtime research partner Dr. Velthara was waiting for them with a concerned expression. "Kexthan, I've been monitoring your investigation through your research reports," she said. "I think we need to talk privately." Dr. Velthara was a Centaurian scientist who had worked with Dr. Kexton for over 20 years. She was brilliant, insightful, and had an unusual ability to see patterns that others missed. Dr. Kexton trusted her completely, which made what happened next even more shocking. "I need to tell you something that might be difficult to hear," said Dr. Velthara, as they sat in his private office. "I'm not entirely what I appear to be." She pressed a small device on her wrist, and her appearance began to change. Her Centaurian features shifted subtly, revealing underlying bone structure that was clearly human. Her skin tone changed from blue to brown, and her eyes shifted from silver to dark green. "My real name is Dr. Sarah Blake," she said in a voice that was now completely different. "I'm the great-granddaughter of Dr. Connor Blake, the human you met on Earth." Dr. Kexathan stared at his colleague of 20 years, feeling his understanding of reality collapse once again. "You've been lying to me this entire time?" "Not lying," Sarah corrected gently. "I genuinely care about our friendship and our research. But yes, I've been guiding your investigation from the beginning. We needed someone respected in the scientific community to discover the truth about human history, and you were the perfect candidate." Commander Thexel had his weapon ready again. "How many of you are there?" "More than Dr. Blake told you, fewer than you probably fear," replied Sarah. "Most of us don't even know our true heritage. We're raised to believe we're normal members of our adopted species. Only a few hundred individuals in each generation are told the truth and given active roles in continuing the plan." Yalara looked hurt and confused. "So everything we've discovered you already knew?" "I knew the outline," admitted Sarah. "But watching you piece together the evidence has been fascinating. You've actually discovered some things that surprised me." Dr. Kexton tried to process this new information. "What else don't we know? What other lies have we been living with?" Sarah activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light scattered across it. Each of these points represents someone with human genetic modifications. Most are minor enhancements that promote cooperation and long-term thinking. Some are more significant, like the ability to intuitively understand complex systems or to find peaceful solutions to seemingly impossible conflicts. "You've been upgrading our entire civilization," realized Commander Thexel. "We've been helping it reach its potential," Sarah corrected. "Every species in the galaxy has natural capabilities for cooperation, wisdom, and technological advancement. We've simply encouraged the development of those traits while discouraging tendencies toward short-term thinking and unnecessary conflict." Dr. Kexton looked at the display showing millions of modified individuals across hundreds of worlds. "My own species' sudden technological advancement 30,000 years ago. That wasn't natural evolution, was it? Your people developed faster than light travel, quantum computing, and advanced medical technology in less than a century," Sarah confirmed. "That kind of rapid advancement doesn't happen naturally. Human agents introduced key scientific concepts through carefully orchestrated independent discoveries. How many of our greatest achievements were actually human gifts?" asked Yalara. "All of them and none of them," replied Sarah cryptically. "We never gave anyone technology they weren't capable of developing. We simply provided guidance and inspiration at crucial moments. Every breakthrough was achieved through the genuine effort and brilliance of your own species. We just helped you find the right path a little faster." Commander Thexel studied the galactic map. "What about military technology? Did you influence the development of weapons and defenses?" "Especially those," Sarah confirmed. "The weapon systems currently deployed by the Galactic Defense Force are specifically designed to be effective against the type of technology the Devourers use. Your military leaders think they're preparing for conventional warfare, but they're actually building the tools needed to defend against entities that consume matter and energy itself." Dr. Kexathan felt overwhelmed by the scope of human influence. "Is anything in our civilization actually our own achievement?" "Everything is your achievement," Sarah assured him. "We've been gardeners, not creators. We've provided the right conditions for growth, but the growth itself came from the natural potential of each species we've helped." She touched another control, and the holographic display changed to show timeline projections extending 50, 1,000 years into the future. The plan is almost complete. Within the next few centuries, the